dugsiga boardingka iyo maalinlaha ah ee Amano boarding and day.
Hello from 3C, our candidates, welcome to our class today with Mr. David. Today I want us to focus on transactional writing, which is section B of English as a first language, option B. And our topic today is going to be about speech writing. I know you've heard so many speeches, you've read so many speeches, you've also written speeches, but I want us to highlight what a speech is and how you can produce a fantastic speech during your writing tests. So let's begin. Okay, just before we go into speech, I want to take you back to give you an explanation or to distinguish between a nonfiction and transactional writing so that you have a clear picture of what you're expected to do during your exams. Okay? So let's see. So these are texts. When you talk about transactional and non-fiction writing, these are texts that deal with facts, opinion, and the real world. So this means they need lots of your experience, the background experience, the world that you live in. Relate to that. Then be creative in order to produce a good piece, right? So let's look at this. Okay? So transaction writing, mainly intends to communicate information between individuals or groups. So look at these examples here. So they include magazine articles, travel writing, obituaries, as well as autobiography. And whereas also reference books are included. Okay, but for today we are not going to focus on those. I just want to give you a highlight so that you know what is expected of you. Okay, transactional writing also includes the following: letters, emails, speeches. So this way I want us to dive into speeches. Okay, are we together, class? Now, look, what you needed to do, or what the examiner needs from you, is can you get the structure right, the language and the tone? Okay? So, for example, if you are going to do this particular writings, I just want to take an example of a newspaper article, which you will usually have headlines, formal language, and takes a serious tone. So that's just an example, so that when we come to our topic today, which is speech writing, then you also have to look at what are the conventions of writing a speech. Okay, I want to pick a good example that everyone would relate to, and that's political speech. So this usually addresses the audience, and it includes the persuasive language and often arousing tone. Okay? So let's see these. You have to think about the form and who is going to listen to you, who is going to read your speech, that's the audience, and the purpose, what you want to achieve with this particular speech. Now, I want you to look at these. For example, if the purpose is to entertain, then if you want to entertain, for example, then your tone should be light-hearted, and you will try to persuade them, and therefore the language component comes into it. How are you going to select the language that you're going to use? So for instance, you can include rhetorical questions which they can relate to. Good? Okay. So writing a speech, what comes into your mind? I want you to look at that. That is Barack Obama giving a speech after his elections. So you can relate to that. And you want to see how is he appealing to his audience. Later on, when I'll give you an example. Now the structure of a speech is what you have. So usually you need to know this particular three structure. It must be engaging and have motivational opening. This is what will keep people reading or listening to you. You're not only doing this one for examination purposes, but this is something that you'll do in the real world when you go out there. Maybe as a CEO giving a presentation, or maybe you want to be a politician and you're in a rally. How do you put your speech? Then it must be well-structured argument with several main points. There must be a purpose. What do you want to achieve? Okay, and remember that not everyone will agree with you. How will you handle those objections? Good. Then, last but not least, what a speech should aim to. It must be dynamic and memorable. Conclusion. Remember, they start at the conclusion. That is what people will go with at home. What did so-and-so say? What did Mr. David say? What did Mr. Chris say? What did Mr. Hamid say? How did you conclude? So think about that. Now let's look at the language, because language is what helps you. These are the tools that you have that helps you to put your speech through. Okay? Now it should be clear, coherent, and with a consistent point of view. Right? So the language will vary depending on the people you're addressing or the people that you're talking to. If I'm a teacher addressing a head teacher, then I know the language that I'm going to use. If I'm addressing students, then I have to know my choice of language. If I'm talking to my friends back at home, I can use informal language, which will be more appropriate in that particular setting. So I want you to look. So the purpose of the speech is to convince listeners of a particular point of view. And typically, you have to be persuasive. Help them come to your side. That is what you need. Okay? So I want you to look at some of the examples of, let's say for example in our school, we are talking about write a speech against the school uniform, for example. Then these are some of the language that you can choose. You can use rhetorical questions. So for example, would you feel happy if you could wear what you wanted at school? Or you also need rules of three. Uniforms are uncomfortable, itchy, and worse of less bland. They're not fashionable, right? Look at other devices that I can use. Okay, if I want to evoke emotion, I want the people to feel, I can say, many students are forced to suffer the indignity of wearing clothes that do not match their personal style for the duration of their school careers. So I want you to point out something here. So the language that appeals to their senses, they are forced to suffer the indignity. So look at what that one brings. Like, man, I don't want to wear a uniform. So definitely you will have achieved your objective of that particular speech. Okay, let's move to other language structures that you can use that can make your speech more interesting. But by these, I want to refer to a famous speech that was given by Barack Obama about climate change. Okay? So let's read it together, and I want you to look at what I'm going to highlight. Then we will eventually look at who is targeted in this case. So look at the speech. We the people will still believe that our obligations as Americans are not just ourselves, but to all prosperity. We will respond to the threat of climate change, knowing that the failure to do so will betray our children and future generations. Some may still deny the overwhelming judgment of science, but none can avoid the devastating impact of raging fires, crippling drought, or powerful storms. A path towards sustainable energy sources will be long and sometimes difficult, but America cannot resist the transition. We must lead it. We cannot concede to the nations the technology that will power new jobs and new industry. We must claim its promise. That is how we will maintain our economy vitality and our national treasure. You and I, as citizens, have the power to set the country's course. You and I, as citizens, have the obligation to shape the debate of our time, not only with the votes we cast, but with the voices we lift in defense of our ancient values and enduring ideas. Will you join us? So you look at, I've highlighted the we, you can see it's some kind of repetition, appealing to the audience directly. So bringing them, but I want you to look at what I just talked about in the previous maybe slide there, if you could see here. Okay, I talked about devastating impact of raging fires, crippling drought, and powerful storms. So this one evokes the emotional response in them. So this is what you need. Okay? So look, in there, the audience is American. He knows what they want. Then the purpose, he wanted to convince them to take the responsibility of acting on climate change. Then he chooses the choice of word, powerful we, within the opening paragraph, needs to engage you, grab readers' attention at the start of your speech. Then also how he was dealing with object. Look at, some may still deny. So this is how he was handling the opposition. Yeah? Then the second paragraph, you look at the emotive language that he used. Devastating, crippling, powerful. Then also when he ends, he appeals to you, we, our. So this suggests that all these audiences should work together. Okay? Then look at the imperatives. We must. These imperative sentences, we must, and rhetorical questions as well. So, which enable them to take action. Okay. As we end up the lesson, I want you to try this at home. So, schools have a duty to continually improve conditions of students. You have been asked to give a speech in which you express your views on these statements. So, your speech may include who should have responsibility for improvements, whether improvements would help students, or any other points you wish to make. But I want you to think carefully when writing these. What I want you to take into consideration is the purpose of your speech, as well as the audience to whom it's intended to. So, in a nutshell, as I conclude, I say that a speech should be convincing, making the listeners or the readers glued at your work and be convinced. So, the choice of words will drive this one home. So, whenever you write a speech, think about the purpose. What do you want? Do you want to entertain them? Do you want to convince them? Or you simply want to advise them to do something? Then who are they? Who is your audience? So that one will make you do the right choice of the language. Otherwise, I've come to the end of the lesson. So I want you to go out there, write this exercise, and please do give speeches in your community.